All right, get ready to dive deep because today it's all about heavy water.
Heavy water.
Yeah, it's like regular water, but instead of hydrogen, it's got this heavier version called deuterium.
Ah, deuterium. Interesting.
And this stuff is seriously wild. I mean, from what I've seen, heavy water is used in nuclear reactors. It can be toxic. It can mess with the speed of reactions.
Hmm.
And there's even research going on about its potential for, get this, anti-aging.
Really? Anti-aging?
Yeah. So how can something be so important and also potentially harmful?
Well, what's so interesting about heavy water is that just this tiny change at the atomic level can have these huge consequences.
Okay.
It really all comes down to deuterium. It has this extra neutron compared to regular hydrogen. So
Hmm.
it's like hydrogen's bigger, tougher brother. And that extra neutron changes how heavy water behaves.
So one extra neutron turns hydrogen into like the super buff version of itself.
That's right.
But how does that lead to all these crazy effects?
Yeah.
Like how does that make it important for nuclear reactors, for example?
Okay, well, picture a nuclear reactor, like this really, really fast game of pool.
Okay.
But instead of billiard balls, you have neutrons bouncing around.
Right.
And to keep that chain reaction going, you have to slow down those neutrons. That's where heavy water comes in. Because it's denser, it's heavier.
Yeah.
Those neutrons slam into the deuterium atoms and they lose some of their speed.
Okay.
So they're more likely to interact with the uranium and keep that whole reaction going.
Got it.
Without heavy water, these certain types of reactors, especially the ones that use natural uranium fuel, they just wouldn't work.
So it's like heavy water is kind of like the referee in a nuclear mosh pit.
Yeah, something like that.
Make sure things don't get too crazy.
Yeah.
But then on the other hand, there's this whole toxicity thing. How can something that helps produce clean energy also be so dangerous?
It really comes down to dosage.
Yeah.
Think about it like oxygen. We need oxygen to survive, but pure oxygen would actually be really harmful.
Right, right, of course.
And while we all have tiny amounts of heavy water in our bodies naturally, high concentrations can be deadly. And that's because heavy water interferes with all sorts of important cell processes, like cell division and metabolism.
Wow.
Our cells rely on this delicate balance of normal hydrogen bonding.
Yeah.
And heavy water just throws a wrench in the whole system.
So it's like our cells are these perfectly tuned instruments.
Yeah.
And heavy water comes in and just plays all the wrong notes.
Exactly.
So it's the Goldilocks principle. Too much heavy water, bad. But a tiny bit, not a problem.
What I'm still not clear on is how it slows down reactions. Like, what's going on there?
It goes back to hydrogen bonding again.
Oh.
These bonds, they're super important for the structure and function of lots of molecules, especially proteins.
Okay.
So when you replace regular hydrogen with deuterium, it's like you're switching from a light thread to a heavier one.
Yeah.
It changes the tension, and how things interact. And that affects the speed of all these chemical reactions happening inside us. It basically slows them down. So heavy water is like changing the tempo of this big, intricate dance happening inside our cells. Like a DJ slowing down a record.
Yeah, I like that.
Changes the whole vibe, right?
It does. And that brings us to the most interesting part. This idea of heavy water in anti-aging research. Some studies are showing that small doses of heavy water might actually help us live longer. Maybe by protecting against oxidative stress.
Wait, so you're saying slowing down some of our cellular processes could actually be a good thing when it comes to aging?
It seems counterintuitive, right?
I'll look
The
it up.
research is still in the early stages,
Yeah.
but it's raising these fascinating questions about heavy water and how it affects our biological systems.
That is so wild. It seems like the more we learn about heavy water, the weirder and more interesting it gets.
I know, right?
It's like this hidden world within the water we know, with its own set of rules and effects.
Exactly.
Well, I am ready to dive deeper.
Awesome. Let's do it.
So heavy water can be good and bad, and it can mess with our bodies. But where do we even find this stuff? Does it have a long history, or is it something new?
Well, the story of heavy water is actually pretty cool. Lots of twists and turns. And it's tied in with some big historical events like World War II.
Oh, World War II. Okay, now I have to hear this. Tell me about heavy water and World War II.
It all started in 1931. An American chemist, Harold Urey, he discovered heavy water.
Right.
It was huge news in the science world. Urey even won the Nobel Prize for it a few years later.
Wow.
But then World War II happened, and things changed.
How so?
Heavy water became really valuable because of its role in nuclear research. Scientists figured out that it could be used in nuclear reactors.
Would control the reactions.
Exactly. And of course, during the war, everyone was worried about nuclear weapons, so heavy water became a strategic material.
So heavy water went from a science lab to a potential weapon ingredient.
Pretty much. Germany was really interested in heavy water for their nuclear program, and the Allies, they were really worried.
Yeah, I bet.
They knew that if Germany got enough heavy water, they could build nuclear weapons.
Oh, wow, that's scary. So what did the Allies do? Did they just let it happen?
No way. They actually took action. They launched these daring missions to sabotage Germany's heavy water production.
Really?
Yeah. Like, there is this famous mission with Norwegian resistance fighters. They attacked a heavy water plant in 1943, set Germany back big time.
Wow. It's incredible how heavy water went from a scientific discovery to a, like, spy movie plot.
I know, right? It just shows how important science can be, especially during major world events.
So what happened to heavy water after the war? Did people forget about it?
Oh, no, not at all. It's still really important in different fields, and researchers are finding new uses for it all the time.
Like what? Besides reactors, what else is heavy water used for?
Well, one area is medical imaging. Have you ever heard of an MRI?
Yeah, of course.
Well, they use heavy water in some MRI techniques.
Go away. I've had an MRI, but I had no idea heavy water was involved.
It helps create contrast in the images. Doctors inject heavy water, and it makes certain tissues and structures easier to see, so they can diagnose things like tumors, injuries, even neurological disorders.
So it's like heavy water is helping doctors see inside us more clearly.
Yeah, exactly.
That's pretty amazing. But what about the anti-aging stuff we talked about before? Any new developments there?
Yes, there's definitely research happening on that. Like we said, heavy water might protect against oxidative stress.
Which is what causes aging, right?
One of the main culprits, yeah. But it's still early days for this research. We need more studies before we know for sure if heavy water can really slow down aging.
Still, it's a pretty cool idea. Something we connect with life and hydration could also help us live longer. It just shows that even simple things like water can have hidden depths.
For sure. And speaking of hidden depths, there's even more to learn about heavy water.
Ooh. Like what?
Well, there are some kind of quirky things about it.
Quirky. Okay, I'm all ears. Bring on the weird science. Quirky, huh? Okay, I'm ready for it. Spill the beans. What's so quirky about heavy water?
Well, have you ever heard of the Mpemba effect?
The Mpemba effect. Maybe. I don't think so. What is it?
It's this weird thing where sometimes hot water can freeze faster than cold water.
Wait, what? Hot water freezes faster than cold water. How is that possible?
It sounds crazy, right? But there's actual science behind it. It has to do with heat transfer and how water molecules behave.
Okay, I'm listening. But what does this have to do with heavy water?
The cool part is that heavy water actually shows the Mpemba effect even more than regular water.
You mean heavy water freezes even faster than hot regular water?
Exactly.
Wow. So heavy waters are different in all these ways, and now it's a super freezer, too.
Yeah, pretty much. And scientists are still trying to figure out exactly why.
I bet. It's like one of those science mysteries that keeps everyone guessing.
It is. And it shows that even with things we think we know, like water, there can still be surprises.
Totally. It seems like every time we learn something new about heavy water, there's another layer to uncover. So besides being a super freezer, what other strange things can heavy water do?
Another interesting thing is how it affects living things. We talked about how it's toxic in large amounts.
Right.
But small amounts can actually change things in plants and animals.
Like what kind of changes?
Well, studies have shown that plants that grow in water with a little heavy water in it, they can grow differently, even look different.
Oh, really? So it's kind of like giving them a makeover.
You could say that. It changes their biological processes, which can change their size, shape, even color sometimes.
That's so cool.
And it's not just plants. Studies on animals, like mice, show that even a little heavy water can mess with their circadian rhythms.
Circadian rhythms, you mean their internal clocks, like when they sleep and wake up?
Yeah, exactly. Heavy water seems to mess with their sleep-wake cycles and how active they are. It shows how even tiny changes in our environment, like at the molecular level, can affect living things.
This is blowing my mind. It's like heavy water is secretly controlling everything. What other hidden effects could it have that we don't even know about?
That's what's so amazing about science. There's always more to learn, always more questions to ask. Heavy water shows us that something as simple as water can be so complex and fascinating.
This whole deep dive has been incredible. We've learned about heavy water in nuclear power, medical imaging, its crazy history, and how it affects living things. It's like we've discovered a whole new world within water.
And it doesn't stop here. Research is always ongoing, so who knows what other amazing things we'll discover about heavy water.
It really makes you appreciate the power of science. just asking questions and being curious, even about things we think we already know.
You said it. Sometimes the biggest discoveries come from looking closer at the things we take for granted. Heavy water is a perfect example of that.
Well, I want to thank you for taking me on this deep dive into the world of heavy water. It's been a really fun journey.
Thanks for having me. And to everyone listening, keep exploring and keep asking questions. The world is full of mysteries waiting to be uncovered. You never know. Maybe you'll be the one to make the next big discovery about heavy water or something else entirely. There's so much out there to explore.